Mm. Well, they tell me I'm live, so I'm guessing I'm live. Question is, am I live here by myself or am I live here with you? So, welcome to Sunday Night Alive. We come together every Sunday night at 6 p.m. in order to explore topics surrounding the conversation about practical spirituality. I am a New Thought minister, and I've been being a spiritual teacher and leader for about 20 years. And I am of the opinion that the world needs a spiritual awakening sooner rather than later. So we come together to really anchor this for ourselves in consciousness. So I'm so happy you are here with me tonight. If you are here with me tonight, please say hello. So I am knowing I'm here with you. So hi, David. Welcome. Oh, I'm streaming to you live from Southwest Florida. We have a beautiful, balmy 90-degree day. I don't know what it's like where you are, but that's what it's like where I am, and it is lovely. So we have a great topic tonight: growing and giving. It is in response to my ongoing query. I do have an ongoing query into what it will take, really, like what's required. Last week we talked about the 100th monkey. Like how many number of people need to awaken to their spiritual identity or a spiritual reality before the world begins to express that, before we begin to see it. So I'm just going for it, because we just have to keep doing it until there's enough of us that it just happens spontaneously without too much effort. You know, I just am, it is obvious to me that humans are evolving, that we are evolving. In fact, the last 150 years has been the period of our fastest growth ever as human beings. So I do know that we are evolving in alignment with our talk tonight. Growth really is the name of the game, that we are growing, then we're growing, then we're growing. We never stop growing. You will never stop growing. I will never stop growing. So let's talk about that tonight. We're talking about growth, growing and giving. And I'm adding to that, actually, experience, because the question really is, you know, I've continued to do this research and probably should stop paying attention to it. But really, since January, 135 mass murders in the United States. 135. That's what, 40 a month, 35 a month of people just killing people just because they're upset, they're tense, they're angry, they're stressed, they're pushed beyond their limits. I mean, I don't know. I am baffled by it, actually. So it leads to the point, really, as human beings, the question might be, who am I? Who are you? Why are you here? Why are any of us here? So let me pray us in before we go too much deeper. I can see myself launching into a sermon without a prayer, which is not always a good thing. So welcome again. Welcome to Sunday Night Alive. We are going to explore the purpose of our being alive, which I'm interpreting tonight as experience, growing, and giving. And so let us begin our inquiry by turning within together for a moment of centering ourselves in the spirit, centering ourselves in the realization that we are surrounded by, undergirded by, protected, maintained, and sustained by a spiritual something. Some people call it God, some people call it quantum field, some people call it the Atman presence, some people call it the Great Spirit, some people call it so many names for what we're talking about. but it is a power greater than we are, out of which all was created, including you and me, and which ultimately has um, us, created us to express its existence, to be its presence, its hands, its feet, its mouth, its ears. It was Emerson who said, if you're here, God must have needed an organ on earth. And so I just bless our time together in this, in the nature and name of this connecting something that connects us one to another, to all animals, to all plant life, to all mineral life, that we are one. And so I affirm and accept that should we be here tonight, should you be listening to my voice sometimes later than tonight, that there is a great blessing to be bestowed upon us as a unified spiritual community inquiring about the nature of existence. And so for all of this and more, I am grateful. We let this be, and so it is. Amen. Hi, Jan. All right, everyone. So this question about who we are and where we come from and why we're here deserves to be answered, because I'm going to tell you, we're definitely not here for the reasons we think we are. We are not here to make money. We're not here to have great jobs. We're not here to buy good cars. We're not here to accumulate wealth. We're not here for any of those reasons. This reminds me of one of my favorite jokes. Oh my God, my sister's here. Hello, Janelle. One of my favorite humorous, spiritual humor of all times was the very, very, very rich old man who found out he was dying, and he wasn't very old, so he started bargaining with God. So he said to God, God, please, I know you're not supposed to bring anything with you, but I am so rich and I've done so much good on earth. Please, I beg for an exception. Please let me bring something. And God says, you're not allowed to bring anything. That's the rule. You leave, you have to leave it. The guy was relentlessly pleading and begging. So God finally said, fine, you can bring one small suitcase. That's it. One small suitcase. So the man was very happy. And as predicted by his physicians, he did pass from a heart attack some months later. So he shows up at the pearly gates, and, St. Peter says, oh, sorry, sir. Sorry. I see you have a little suitcase with you. You are not allowed to bring that. And the man goes, no, I have special dispensation from God. I'm allowed to bring it. St. Peter said, fine, but I have to inspect it before I can let you into heaven. So the man hands him his little tiny suitcase. He opens it up, and St. Peter looks at it and furrows his brow and says, oh, I'm just confused. Why? And when he looks into the suitcase, what he sees is gold bullion. I like 30 pieces of a gold bullion. And St. Peter says to the man, he goes, why, if you could bring anything, would you bring pavement? Ta-da. So that is a joke on, in case anybody's out here going, what does that mean? So have you ever heard the term that heaven is, the streets in heaven are lined with gold? Yeah. So God doesn't really care about the things we care about. So it begs the question, why are we here? Why are we incarnated on this earth in these bodies? And it's not for nothing. And it's not so we can pick up guns and kill people. It's ridiculous. So let's go deeper. I want to go deeper. Remember, this is a stream on practical spirituality. I believe that if we're going to be spiritual, if we're going to be religious even, that we should know what that means. Now, some people, in my experience, in my family, I actually have no idea what they believed, but I'm pretty sure they did not believe in God. I don't know. I don't know. It was never mentioned. We never talked about it. I never asked. They never offered. And I would say that in general, they believed in life is hard and then you die. That they don't know why you're born. I don't think they ever asked the question, to tell you the truth, but I think if you ask them, they would say that you're born to, you know, I don't know, like it's chaos here, and you get married, have some children, do the best you can, pay your taxes, and then you die. And if you were halfway decent, maybe you get to heaven, maybe you get to hell. But I don't think they believed in any of that either. And then you have a whole group of people. There's a lot of people on this earth who believe that life here is for the purpose of sacrifice and suffering, so that after you live this life, you can go to heaven or hell. So I don't like that one at all, because it just seems ridiculous to me that any God of love would create us to suffer for any reason whatsoever. So it behooves me to offer, or at least to speak about, the philosophy, faith, and way of life that I and most of the people I hang with, my buds, my tribe, that we really believe that we actually chose to incarnate, that God is a ineffable undergirding power and presence out of itself that has created everything for the purpose of growth and giving. I think that's my story tonight. I'm going to stay with it. I love the Einstein quote. Einstein said, "I want to know God's thoughts. The rest is details. The rest are details." I guess R is proper with thoughts. So meaning that you and I and the birds and the bees and the elephants, the trees, have been created by the spiritual something, call it whatever it is that you like, and that we are here as extensions of that. So before we dive into growing, I want to start with a premise, because it is a premise you have to accept for yourself, or none of this will make any sense. Nothing makes sense without this premise, which is that you are not a human body. You are not a human being having a human experience, living and dying a meaningless life. That you are not that at all. That you are actually a spiritual being, that you have a spiritual identity, and that you are here to grow and to give, that you are just not your body. And we'll talk about that in just one second. If everyone thought that that was the truth, that you were here to experience and express love, experience and express peace, experience and express life, that people would behave differently. You would behave differently. We would act differently. We would think differently if we, for 1 second, accepted that as a basic premise. We would be be a different order of being than the kind of being that we are. And it's important that everyone else is being what they're supposed to be. Elephants are elephants. They behave like elephants. Daisies behave like daisies. Birds behave like birds. Human beings are the only creation made with free will, which means that we are miniature deities, really, that we have free will, we choose, we can deduce, we can think, we can decide, we can choose. We can choose. Lions cannot choose but to pounce on an antelope and eat it. It is its mandate. You and I were created to be loving, giving, kind, compassionate, healthy, ecstatic, happy beings, but we choose otherwise. And we do choose otherwise, do we not? Yeah. So let's talk about the lesson for tonight is growth and giving, growing and giving as the purpose of your existence. But I want to start first. I've added experience, because I think in order to really explore this topic, we have to talk about why we have bodies, because the body is can easily seduce us into thinking we're puny and weak. And we are not puny and weak in any way, shape, or form. Because the body is an expression of you as a spirit. So you exist without the body. You've always existed. Who you are, the energy of you, the reality of you exists now, always has, and always will. But you decided through some, I don't know how we decide, but we decided to incarnate. We are here. That's non-negotiable, right? We're here. I'm here. You're here. Here I am in this beautiful body. There you are in your beautiful body. And the body is not only, it's by the way, it's perfect. And if you ever wonder if God exists, who organized this amazing system of digestion, elimination, circulation? Who did that? This body is so perfect. It has organs. Every organ has a function. Every livers do not help you see. Livers, kidneys do not circulate blood. It's like every organ has its purpose. It is absolutely amazingly beautiful. But more importantly, your body has sensory perception. So you can see, hear, smell, taste, and feel. I want to suggest that the only reason we have that is so that we can revel and relish and experience and delight in the earth. That what good would it be here to not enjoy the sunset or the blooming flower or the birth of a baby? We are here to experience it, to smell it, to see it, to feel it. So the body is not here to suffer, to experience pain, to have disease, to get shot by someone with a gun. The body, you are in the body to experience. So it's why we have to breathe carefully, like consciously breathe. It's why we hug trees. It's why we smell flowers. It's why we listen to birds chirping. Like, this earth is so beautiful and so magical and so mystical that we decide to come partly to experience it. So I love that. And I encourage you to practice this week more experiencing of the beauty of this earth. Turn off the news, quiet your mind, take a walk in nature, and just remember why you came. You came so that you can touch, feel, smell, hear, and experience the earth. Yes, very important. It's very important. So, so growth. So growth is the purpose of life. And I'm going to change the word for a moment, because human beings, we are evolving. It was only hundreds of years ago where we didn't know how to light a fire, where we didn't know how to build a house, where we didn't understand gravity. It was not, I'm telling you, we think it was a long, long, long time ago, but the human beings, the way that we know ourselves now is a couple 100,000 years. The universe has been here for millions and billions of years. So human beings are evolving beyond, you, my woman, caveman day, right? Let's build a fire. Sorry. But we're evolving so fast. We have learned so much in the past 100 years. And now we're on the precipice of moving beyond understanding the physical universe to understanding the spiritual universe. And that's being reflected in our growth. So if we start at the beginning as the purpose of your life, just remember, I'm asserting to you that growth is the purpose of your life. And I think that's true from the moment you're born to the moment you die, or in spiritual terms, from the moment you appear to the moment you disappear. the moment you appear on earth to the moment you decide to leave, we're here to grow. Now, obviously, as an infant, and by the way, don't think for a moment that the reason you're here is because two people decided to have sex. That's not why you're here. That's how you got here, but it's not why you're here. And by the way, it wasn't an accident, or it wasn't like, oh, these two people had sex and then here I am. No, it was more like, I think it's way more true that I think I want these two people to get together and have me for your own reasons, your own soul's reasons. But nevertheless, the first thing that needs to happen in your growth when you're born is somebody needs to teach you how to walk, somebody needs to teach you how to talk, somebody needs to teach you how to add up numbers, somebody needs to teach you how to read. All of this is your human growth, initial growth experience, where you're going to go from infant to a person of free will, a being that chooses. But this initial process of growth is imposed upon us, and because the world is not enlightened yet, it's imposed upon us by human beings, purely human beings who don't know that they're spiritual beings, who don't know that they're powerful creators. So they're teaching you how to read, how to think from their perspective. So whether they're Jewish or Christian or Hindu, whether they're white or black, whether they're gay or straight, whether they're whatever it is that they are or were, however they were raised, that's what was overlaid upon you as an infant. This happens to every human being, and it's an unavoidable process of what Miguel Ruiz would have called our domestication process. You were domesticated into your culture. Now, this is good growth from the standpoint that without it, you wouldn't know how to navigate this life on earth that we've created together, right? You wouldn't know how to work. You wouldn't know how to go to school. You wouldn't know how to balance a checkbook. So all of that's quite essential, but it is the first level of growth, and it's really based on being a human being living from the ego's perspective alone. So there is a second part that happens because we're spiritual beings created by love for the purpose of loving, where mostly what we learned as children is going to hit us upside the head like a ton of bricks, because we're here, our soul is here to grow spiritually. So then we go through this period of growth where you have to unlearn everything you've learned. And I really, I didn't coin this pushed by pain, pulled by vision. This is a Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith saying. But the second phase is really about being pushed by pain. So you can only eat so many McDonald's burgers, smoke so many cigarettes, drink so many martinis, gamble so many dollars, have so many sex partners without consequence, right? Because the human life run by the ego is really a depletion process, not a nourishing process. So for most of us, for many, many people, we are pushed by pain until we awaken to the next period of growth, which is a spiritual one. So what I've experienced as a minister is, in the Science of Mind, Philosophy, Faith, and Way of Life, we have a very rigorous education process. And early in that education process, or classes where we're learning to think differently and to be different, we come into that process with what has been called unstable life structures. So for most of us, we come into adulthood 20s, 30s, 40s, with not everything operating smoothly. So our health may be suffering. We might have disease in the body, or addiction in the body, depression in the body. We might have financial instability, where we aren't earning enough money to get by, living week to week. We don't have enough money or food or housing. It could be a relationship weakness, where we don't know how to have a healthy, listen, I grew up in a family, there was no way I learned how to have a healthy relationship with people. I mean, these people had no idea how to love, what loving meant, what compassion meant, what sharing meant, what cooperation meant. So part of our early spiritual development is about how to stabilize our life structures. And when that happens, as that is happening, which is wonderful, by the way, and it will turn itself around as you continue evolving. Part of the value of going into a spiritual community is that you can learn how to be different. You can learn how to think differently. And you and I know this because we've been studying these principles, that if you change the way you think about love, your experience of love will be different. If you change the way you think about your body will be different. If we change what we think about money, our money will be different. So the first premise is that you are a spiritual being, not a physical one. It's a very first premise. You have got to accept that for yourself, that we do not live in a purely physical universe. We live in a spiritual universe. We live in a universe undergirded, surrounded by, maintained by, sustained by love. And that even though we may be demonstrating fear or hatred or anger, it's not the truth. It is temporary. When we change, that will change. That it is a reflection of our consciousness, not a reflection of God. So as we change the way that we think, you will change what happens in your life. That's called stabilizing your life structures. So there's a moment when the light switches on, where you will begin to view the conditions of your life as opportunities to grow rather than opportunities to complain. So when something goes astray, it ceases being because God's mad at you, or because you're not lucky, or because you don't have a college degree, or because you were born a woman, or because whatever reason we have for our life not being glorious, grand, and resplendent, is not because you can't have that. It's because you can't have that because of the way that you create. So growth goes from domestication into learning what you need to learn the hard way, to being pulled by vision. So when you move into being pulled by vision, you're moving into a stage of your own evolution where you will begin to dream bigger dreams. You will say, I want to be happier. I want to live an abundant life where I'm not struggling financially, where all of my needs are met. That is called being pulled by vision, because if you can stand in your stand to be a more loving person, if you can stand in the stand to be a more loving person, what you will get back is more love. So growth, the purpose of your life is to grow, is to be continuously evolving. In some ways, our human incarnation is like a microcosm of the macrocosm. When God did not create Adam and Eve and then walk away and say, okay, that's it, my job is done. No. God, I'm sorry, this is a very deep thought coming right now, but try to catch it in consciousness. The universe is evolving by means of us. As we evolve, all that is evolves. As all that is evolves, we evolve. So we are an essential part of the evolution of life. In some ways, the evolution of this thing we're calling God, that we are, one of the primary premises of our teaching is that God is not only out there, God is more than we are, but who we are is all God, right? So we are part of the divinity, however you define divinity for yourself. So the first purpose of our life is to experience the earth and to experience each other, to truly the magic of the physical incarnation. I think I shared last week my elderly neighbor, my geriatric neighbor, who said, I think old age is precious. I'm trying to get there myself, but if what I'm saying is true, and I believe that it is, then all aspects of the incarnation are precious, birth and death and everything in between. And partly because we can experience it. Now, obviously, when you're in pain, the experience isn't so great, but we have the capacity to change our focus, to focus on what does feel good, what is beautiful, what does make us happy. And that's our responsibility. We're creatures of free will. Are you with me? Yeah. So growth is inevitable. Do not try to resist it. That you can either grow pushed by pain, and you will be pushed by pain. It's like, I've done a lot of work with addiction recovery, and people who are addicted to anything, it feels good for a minute, and then there's pain. And then it feels good for a minute, and then there's more pain. And then it feels good for a minute, and then there's even more pain. So in many ways, what I discovered through that work is that the addict themselves, the person dealing with alcohol or drugs or shopping, or it doesn't matter what it is, they actually become more awakened than the majority of human beings because the pain forces them to. The discomfort of addiction and of unstabilized life structures forces sobriety. Sobriety forces connecting to something greater than ourselves. We ourselves are nothing. You and I, we are not great because we're great. The ego is not great. The ego is out to mess around with us. We're great because God is great. We're great because love is real. So growth, experiencing growth. So that leaves us into giving. So if life is for the purpose of giving, which I believe that it is always, that you chose to come into this life in order to express, in order to grow. And by the way, your growth, I believe that the soul had a specific intention for growth, either to grow in compassion, to grow in love, to grow in peace, to grow in joy, that you as an eternal being wanted to work on something. So you came here to work on it. There's a wonderful book by Patrick Harbula. Patrick Harbula wrote a book called The Magic of the Soul. And he had this wonderful hypothesis that I so believe is true, is that your childhood, whatever it was, however grand it was, however hard it was, however torturous it was, however glorious it was absolutely necessary for you to experience what you needed to experience and to learn what you needed to learn to grow into your maturity as a human being and as a spiritual being, to give the gifts you came here to give. It's a big idea, especially for those of us who have had difficult childhoods, which I consider I did. Most people I know did. But wouldn't it be interesting that if all that difficulty ultimately opens your heart and your mind to that which is going to be what you impart to other human beings as your gift to life? And by the way, it doesn't have to be grand and glorious. Janitors, teachers, nurses, dentists, doctors, homeless people, everybody has gifts to give, whether that's a gift of joy, the gift of touch, the gift of happiness. So from a human level, giving could be experienced as monetary or material, and that's very, very important, by the way. So we don't want to discount that. But God doesn't care about money. God cares about God cares about love, and God cares about happiness and fulfillment, purpose. So until that happens, we might give to our favorite charity, we might give out of obligation, we might give to get, we might give because our church says, God wants you to tithe 10%. In our teaching, we don't really do that. If you've ever followed Edwin Gaines, who is probably the master teacher of prosperity in our movement, says that we give to that which spiritually feeds us. So wherever you get your spiritual food, you give to that, you support that, right? Because we live in a reciprocal universe. That's a very different idea than you give to get into heaven, or you give to be thought well of by your neighbors. And remember, we're talking about practical spirituality. How does our growing and giving affect our life? How does our growing and giving affect the generations to come? Because that's why we're here. We're here to grow and give and to experience. So that would be a good premise, to give wherever you're spiritually fed. But what happens, I'm going to tell you what the natural outgrowth of growth is giving. When as a human being, we are unaware of our spiritual identity. Let me think of how to word this. When we are unaware of our spiritual identity, we are living from the ego only. More often than not, giving is difficult because for the most part, the ego will always tell us that we don't have enough to give. There's not enough time, not enough money, not enough love. That if I don't have enough, how can I possibly give? I don't have enough for myself, much less to give away. That's kind of a normal human egoic way of living, right? So we dole out. But the principle in the law of cause and effect, the law of reciprocity, giving love means you get love. Giving money means you get money. Giving happiness means you get happiness. That we live in a cycle, and you give, you get what you give in life. And this principle is so ingrained in me anyway, that whenever I'm missing anything, it's like, well, don't worry about how to get it. Figure out how to give it. How do you give community to get community? How do you give attention to get attention? And it's not really about getting it, but it's about understanding the rule book of life. So once you hit young adulthood and you begin to forge your own way, making your own decisions, beginning to live the life the way you've been taught, part of the growth is to learn that what we've been taught isn't true or real. When my parents said to me, the Russians are really bad, we have to protect ourselves from them, that was not a real thing. Doesn't mean it's not true. It's just what they believed, right? And part of the maturity of a human being into a spiritual being is to challenge what we believe to be real and true. Just because you think something is true doesn't make it true or real. In fact, I guess an argument could be made that nothing is real except that which you believe. It is done unto you as you believe. Life will be to you what you believe life is. So Ernest Holmes said, if you want to learn how to live, you have to learn how to think. So part of the entire journey of awakening is to examine consciously everything we think and believe and decide if it serves us or if it's real or true, and do we want to live and believe and live some other way. So what happens in spiritual community, having ministered many New Thought churches, what happens in spiritual community as we grow, as we come out of the mesmerism of the ego and of our domestication, we begin to stabilize our life structures. We begin to live properly and in right relationship to life. So your money becomes stable, your health becomes stable, you become happier, we begin to walk through life feeling comfortable in our own skin, confident, authentic, powerful, uh, um, no longer really worried about lower level concerns. The moment that that happens, our attention begins to go to the outside of ourselves. We begin to see the world beyond our life, our little lives. We begin to look at life in a larger picture. So the question then is, how can I give? How can I give back? How can I give back everything I've received? And it's a very high spiritual calling, which is why I love this. At first we give to live, and then we live to give. And what Dr. Michael Beckwith meant by this, my interpretation, of course, is that if I say to you how you're going to get into right relationship with love is to love more, you may not believe me at first, because sometimes in our domestication we're love deprived. So it's hard to believe that by giving love you can get love. But that is the teaching. The teaching is, if you want more love, give more love. So we give in order to learn how to live. We give more love. We give more patience. We give more tolerance. We give more money. I remember Mary Morrissey, she's taught the prosperity class. I can't remember the name of it now, but she told the story about having nothing. She and her husband have 4 kids. They have nothing. They have not a penny to their name. They're living out of their car. They go from campground to campground, an RV, I suppose, and they wash windows to earn a few dollars. And she was saying that someone told her about the teaching. So for every dollar they would get from washing windows, she would put 10 cents into the campground donation box, 10 cents out of every dollar. And she did that faithfully and faithfully and faithfully until the principle proved itself to her, until she realized that all of a sudden there was more work, more money, more flow of material things in their life. So we give to live, and then all of a sudden we begin to give out of the overflow of our lives, until ultimately growth and giving become a process of increased evolution of consciousness without our having to effort at all. Why? Because we now have embodied the truth that we are one. Spiritual beings, powerful, creative, created to be happy. So we're no longer believing that we're created to suffer. We're creating to find happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction, joy, peace. We are looking for the good, and we are finding the good. And then we grow to such a state that we're just happy, comfortable, at peace. And now we automatically go to, what can I do for you? What can I do for my fellow? What can I do to enhance the life of animals? What can I do to enhance the life of old people? What can I do to enhance the life of children? Because you, right where you are, the little bundle of love that you are, the hot mess that you are, it doesn't really matter. If you are here, you came to give something. You did. You have a gift that nobody else can give. You are a unique snowflake. And nobody else can do what you do to whom you do it. So the purpose of your life is to experience with your 5 physical senses. The purpose of your life is to discover your non-physical senses that are equally as powerful: imagination, will, commitment, dedication, intention. Powerful creators that create outside circumstances through the power of your mind. And once you master that, then there's nothing to do but to give back, give back, give back, and give back. So that is our lesson for today. Our lesson for today is, if you want to know what the purpose of your life is, the purpose of your life is to experience with your physical senses, the beauty that surrounds you, the wonder of your body, the magic of relationships and trees and birds and bees, to grow. And it's never going to stop. It's never like you're done, fully cooked. We are never, if you're in this body, you are not done. So we are here to grow first by experiencing discomfort, and then by experiencing bliss. And then we're here to give it all away. Give everything away, because unlike the man who took gold bullion to heaven, you're not going to take one thing with you, not one thing. And you're going to be on your deathbed, and my goal is that you're on your deathbed so happy with yourself, so satisfied with your journey, that there's not a moment of regret. And you just go out with a big old smile on your face, in the full understanding that who you are cannot die. So you are not dying. You're just moving on. The next growth possibility is right in front of you. That's our lesson for today. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. Oh, yes. So I'm going to pray with us in a moment, so don't go away. Just a couple of announcements. One is, if you have not been to my website, you can go there. On my website, you can go to past written blogs. You can see all of my past journeys to Africa, all the beautiful animals and experiences there. You can also, if you're moved by Send a Net of Life, if you are spiritually fed by it and feel called to do a tithe or a love offering, I never say no to that. So you could do that through my website, or you can also send through PayPal or Zelle to revdschubert@gmail.com. And next week's topic I love is don't freeze frame your life, moving beyond tragedies, big ones and small ones. And that will be really sharing with you a little bit of my inspiration from the movie Seabiscuit, which I've been preaching about for about 15 or 20 years and never ceases to tire. Wonderful spiritual messages. So anyway, so let's pray out for tonight. Just as a reminder, if you're new to this philosophy, faith, and way of life, or if you're new to me, our prayers are a little bit different in that we're not praying to a God to do anything for us. We fully come from the awareness that God has given us everything we need already. So we have a body to experience. We have the capacity to, using our imagination, our creativity, our vision, our commitment, we have the capacity to create a life by design rather than a life by default. So our prayers are more to align ourselves with that truth than to beg a reluctant deity to give us something that we already have. So if you want more money, change your life, change your thinking. If you want more love, change your life. If you want more peace, change your life. If you want a new car, begin to pray about it. If you want a new relationship, focus on love. That's our prayer work. So join me in this moment. Join me as we turn within. We turn within, we close our outer eyes to let the external world be where it is, recognizing it to be, in this moment, the end result of consciousness. It is a crude and temporary representation of personal and collective consciousness, thoughts, ideas, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of ideas. So we open our inner eyes to gaze into that space and place and dimension within us that is spiritual, that is divine, that is creative, that is a part of everything, that is pure love, pure potential, pure peace. We open our inner eyes to gaze into that space within us that is the source of everything on the external, and the dwelling place of pure, unconditioned mind, unconditioned love. It's I call it the home of God within me. And so it is from that place that I know that God cannot break itself into 8 billion pieces. So the fullness of the divine is within me. The fullness of the divine is within you. It is that which connects us by a golden thread, by an invisible thread. It is why when we pray with meaning and feeling, that we draw unto us everything we need, because that which I need is connected to me. And so it is from that place that I speak a word of thanksgiving for our time here tonight. I know that if you have been here listening within the sound of my voice, that something within each and every one of us has moved, has opened, has expanded, has evolved. That we leave this time together experiencing more, appreciating it more, that we accept growth as a purpose of our life, so we grow willingly. We don't resist growth, we embrace growth. We open to the divine idea as our life, and that we sincerely, openly accept the charge to give our gifts to the world in whatever big and small ways we can. It could be a smile on an elevator. It can be offering a hand to a neighbor. It could be volunteering at our spiritual community. It can be whatever it is. Give it away. Give what you got, because you can't take it with you. And so how grateful I am to come into a consciously connected community such as this one every Sunday night at 6 p.m. to learn how to think and to learn how to practice spiritual principles so that our lives are enhanced and the life of the planet is enhanced by our being here. And so for this and so much more, I am grateful. We let this be. We let this be together by saying, and so it is. Amen. All right, beloveds, thank you so much. Have a wonderful week. I will see you next Sunday for Don't Freeze Frame Your Life. Have a wonderful evening.